Good morning. Good morning. If you're getting here early, smash that like button. Appreciate it. Roger, GM. You know what's not working recently? TikTok's not working. Wonder why. Hold up, guys. Just getting everything set up here. Can't ever do a live stream without. I knew people would be salty about the title. It's too fun though, because then if everyone's like, "Oh, you can't put that title," then it just makes you want to do it even more. Dirt Nap, good to see you. Halls Balls, guys, still getting the live stream situated here, so give me a quick second. Oh yeah, Jake's awesome. Yeah, no, Jake does some great lives. One of the things I appreciate about Jake too is Jake tackles a lot of stuff that is very important to plan out that not a lot of people like to pay a lot of attention to. So Ripple X Chainlink. What's this Chainlink talk? Oh, here we go. Wow, take a look at this. Cool to see this. Oh, whoops. Here we go. It looks like Chainlink will be the data provider for RLUSD. Very cool to see that. Put a lot of posts for that. Very cool to see that. It's nice to see Ripple building out with a lot of other players in the ecosystem. Flare will make Chainlink. It's, you know what? I'm pretty sure Flare actually can work with something like Chainlink, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure Chainlink could be like a data provider for Flare. So I think they can work a little bit side by side. Mary Cox, good to see you. Sunday Slide, Frank Kerr, Wald Gardner, good to see you. Drew V, Steve Marshall. Chainlink, the XRP killer. Ripple, let's use them. Tiefin, that's awesome. That's a good point, right? There was a lot of FUD going around. Oh, Chainlink disrupts XRP. Chainlink disrupts Ripple. Ripple's literally using Chainlink. So something tells me that is not the case. If I had $1 for every single XRP disruptor that I heard about, I probably wouldn't have to make these videos. No, I'm just kidding. I would make these no matter what, but it is funny, Guys, XRP right now is absolutely looking to break out of this thing. I didn't think we would have the momentum. Maybe we don't. Maybe we still have a bit more to complete. Maybe we will get rejected and have to come all the way back down here. Liquidate one more time. Move back up. That would be about some point next week if we did fall down, but we are trying. We are certainly trying. A lot of bullish indicators flashing for a lot of different people's TA. I wouldn't consider myself a TA guy at all. All I see is an obvious consolidation pattern and say, hey, could be interesting. Jolts report in 4 minutes. Defin, I always appreciate you for coming in and reminding me. There's certain things like that that I just can't remember. Let's see if BCB got it right. Oh yeah, BCB literally called Tuesday today, right? He called it Tuesday today. I mean, I guess technically if you were to get rid of some wicks and you were to say that XRP did fall out of this thing, you could maybe get something going like this. I don't love that chart. I don't think it looks as clean. I prefer to come conservative and just do something like this, but I'm not necessarily watching any exact formation here, just looking to see a breakout. Defin, appreciate you for queuing me in on that. I'll definitely get the Jolts numbers up. Let's see how pre-market looks. Tracy, thank you. Tracy says 68 likes is lame. Tracy, I appreciate you for always getting those likes going. Because if the pre-market's opening, man. I was going to say if the pre-market was opening super green, that might be enough to blast XRP through. It's opening green-ish. Nvidia's up nicely. Some other stuff is down a little bit. Tesla's down a little bit. So it's a little bit of a mixed pre-market. Looks like Bitcoin's recovering a bit, though. We really just need something to help push us through this zone here. And that's where I think we can start making some pretty substantial moves. Well, Kyron Welsh, I wouldn't tell too many people about, how much XRP you have, but congratulations. $626, thank you. I appreciate that. Greg the Barber, good morning. At least Bitcoin is over 100K, indicating alt season. Yeah, and guys, it'll be interesting if we do have the typical alt seasons we've had before in the past. If the United States really has an XRP Strategic Reserve, imagine how much buying pressure that's going to add to XRP. So, let's see what happens. Couple interesting clips. I'm not sure if some people saw. Let me play them here. There is a lot of very interesting. The amount of people now talking about XRP is insane. Take a look at this. This was on Fox News.
One you like is Ripple. You said it is the coin to be looking at right now. Absolutely.
Why?
Okay, so Ripple actually was the second largest coin prior to the SEC's investigation of them. They did this really weird lawsuit against them. And basically, the Ripple's going to be the track that everything's going to be running on in the future. So they created their own stable coin right now.
Okay.
And Bank of America, like I said, they were doing 100% of their internal transactions. They've got 83 different patents on it. And there's some incredible stuff that's going to be coming out. So
these cynics, though, tell me, only put as much in.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. The 81 pat too quiet. Yeah, this video, I have it maxed volume everywhere. The video was just like someone took a screenshot of their TV. Pretty much this guy was talking about 81 patents between Bank of America and Ripple. I don't know how tight his information is, but it's still interesting nevertheless to see him going on and talking about that. Let's see the XRP Strategic Reserve clip. Should be better volume on this.
Yeah, I mean, like years ago, before Biden was elected, you know, what we were, the words I used to use is, like, I just want a level playing field. Like, the U.S. government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. And, you know, as much as I'm pro-Bitcoin and pro-ETH, you know, the SEC, I mean, people forget this, but XRP used to be the second most valuable digital asset after Bitcoin. The United States SEC then gets involved in picking winners and saying, hey, ETH gets a pass, but XRP doesn't. And look, this is very, in my view, very un-American. And to your point, I think it used to be, I just asked for a level playing field. It does feel like, and I think certainly if you look at the crypto markets as a barometer, it would, you know, this administration is.
Wait, hold up.
I know that in the first administration of Trump, of course, these deficits were considered something to pay very close attention to. Technically, on interest rates, I've been monitoring 30-year bonds. They had a double top on a closing basis with a yield of around 481, 482. Yesterday, we surged over that. We are now holding above it. It doesn't mean that we can't see rates come down a bit. What it tells me technically is the consolidation levels right around that 480 level in 30s or the 460 level in 10s. Most likely, we're going to be doing more work at higher yields above that. Joe, back to you.
Okay, Rick, thank you. Steve Leisman joins us now with more. Hey, Steve.
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, I think the issue of following the trade deficit is interesting. Not quite sure we should follow these numbers because there's a lot of sense, Joe, that one of the reasons for the increase is because of front running on the tariffs, as well as some of the payback from the port strike. So those two factors right now might be pushing up the deficit. What will happen economically, Joe, is I believe you'll have the trade deficit widens, that detracts from GDP, but this stuff ends up in inventory, which maybe sort of offsets it. So not a big economic impact, but right now I think the numbers are distorted a bit by front running, although the China trade deficit did come down to a still elevated 24 billion. One quick thing, if you don't mind, Joe, I want to editorialize on Michael Barr leaving as vice chair of supervision. I don't think he should have left, and the reason is because I think it subverts the will of Congress. Congress put the vice chair in there on a term that did not go along with the president because they wanted that to be separate. And so what I think ought to happen is if this is such a political position that the president should have his right or her right to pick that person, then I think that should be separated from the Federal Reserve. So my sense is Barr ought to have stayed. Now, whether or not he's the right person for the job, I don't know. But by him staying on as a board governor, he doesn't give the Trump administration the flexibility to pick the person they may want. Mickey Bowman could be a perfectly good replacement, but you'd think the administration, if it's such an important job politically that the president ought to have his pick, then it probably ought to be out of the Fed, Joe.
Rick still with us. Did any of that?
The president gets his pick for the chairman of the Fed.
Right. Where's Rick?
Sage, Beck, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry. So what about? So is that it? The numbers you were talking about, they're skewed from the tariffs coming in later.
You know, I think the front running that Steve talked about is real, but I do think for the most part it's already peaked. I don't see that it's necessarily affecting the numbers now as much as it has affected them potentially right around mid-24 when we're at 75, 76, 73, 79 billion, all skewed together. Now, it doesn't mean that after Trump is in office, we may see these numbers moderate a bit. But if you really take a step back, it's really hard to ignore how much the world has changed post-COVID. I mean, it just really has changed. Whether it's, we spend 25% more, all these things ultimately are going to come back to haunt us, because with the trade balance doing what it is, should the tariffs actually be counterproductive, you could see this number back up to 90 or 100 billion again.
Right, Steve?
I don't know that
I don't know. I don't make too much of that. Interesting to see those numbers coming in, though. Let's go back to what Brad Garlinghouse was saying about the XRP Strategic Reserve.
Administration is putting America first. And, well, I mean, we shall see. It's still, there's things to play out and things to happen. But I think indications are that, if, for example, there's some talk about a crypto reserve, and I think that would end up including Bitcoin and other technologies, which, frankly, just makes sense from a diversification point of view. And so I'm very optimistic that it is a new dawn for the crypto industry in the United States. The United States has led in many technical innovations, and it was leading in crypto, and some of the leading global companies are based here in the United States. But the last handful of years in the Biden administration have been very hostile towards crypto, maybe amongst the most hostile on the planet, and that's coming to an end. So that's going to be good for the companies that Ripple included.
So I thought that's very interesting. I mean, I never thought in a million years there would be an XRP Strategic Reserve, but I mean, Brad Garlinghouse seems to think so, and Brad Garlinghouse is the one who has specifically talked to Trump about what's coming. So I think it's very optimistic here to say. I mean, he clearly went out on an extra limb there to say, hey, when it comes down to where we stand in the United States, American cryptocurrency companies are going to come first. And I think that puts XRP in a very unique position. I thought this clip was really good too. Just talking about the sheer amount of money that's about to come in.
XRP was the second most valuable digital asset. And again, that's before you had these exogenous factors that I would say were unnatural, maybe not ethical in debate, but, and I think now you're seeing that change. And I think, with a level playing field, I almost think about it as if you hold a basketball under the water long enough, eventually you let go of it and it shoots up. But why are we surprised by that? Somebody was holding it underwater and now it's rising. So look, I feel like it feels somewhat vindicating, I'll be honest with you. But I think we should measure these over a long arc of time. I encourage Ripple employees. Yes, we are aware that XRP has gone up in value, but we really do try to take a very long-term view about what we're building and how that contributes to an internet of value, and how XRP can be a critical component of an internet of value.
Yeah, it's like trying to disconnect some of the speculation from obviously the use case and ultimately how to think about the value. But my work as an analyst, we look at flow of funds, covering stocks for 20 plus years. And when you remove a huge barrier to inflows, what happens is, and there's demand, price goes up. And, so we've been obviously talking about these ETFs, and I still personally think we're in the very early innings of demand into just even the Bitcoin ETFs, let alone as people kind of go down the path into other assets. And so, that's hundreds of billions of dollars, in my opinion, over the next few years. And then you talk about demand from something like a reserve, which, in my opinion, it would probably far surpass the demand for even the ETF. So, it's an interesting just dynamic of like trying to set price on something where you essentially had a massive restriction on the ability to buy the demand side. And so price discovery is going to be interesting here for a while.
This last part,
you essentially had it.
This last part is so interesting to me because you can tell he's really trying to be as conservative as possible. But he says something here. He says if there is a strategic reserve, then he thinks it's going to far outpace the billions coming in because of the ETFs. And he talks about the ability to buy being restricted for so long, and then that floodgate essentially being opened. And guys, like, there's no other way to put it. I mean, we were simply positioned in this prior to that demand coming flying in. We were able to purchase and allocate prior to these large institutions coming in, before mainstream getting in. So, I mean, that's what's so crazy about all of this. Let's listen up to that last part again.
Hundreds of billions of dollars, in my opinion, over the next few years. And then you talk about demand from something like a reserve, which, in my opinion, it would probably far surpass the demand for even the ETF. So, it's an interesting just dynamic of like trying to set price on something where you essentially had a massive restriction on the ability to buy the demand side. And so price discovery is going to be interesting here for a while, I think.
Not sure it really gets much better than that. Very, very interesting clips from this Brad Garlinghouse interview. I've certainly enjoyed this a lot. It's nice to hear Brad Garlinghouse able to talk a little bit more open too. You can definitely tell that now that the case is really starting to become behind us, he's able to say a lot more that he hasn't really been able to say before in the past. There was a very interesting point where Brad Garlinghouse was talking about how we were kind of in the 1990 era of the internet. See if we can get some more good clips from this interview to go through here. No volume? Oh, that's why.
Government, I think, is less so. Tether is, but I'm pro Tether and an advocate. The U.S. government, I think, is less so. That may change also, but Tether has intentionally set up outside the United States, outside of kind of the long arm of the U.S. Regulator. The players in that space, particularly one called Tether, is a non-U.S. based entity. And the U.S., frankly, is kind of going after that because they want this to be regulated. Tether is an interesting, Ripple uses Tether in some of our customer payment flows. And I'm bullish. I worry a little bit, back to the transparency point. I think Tether would benefit by being even more transparent.
I doubt Tether may continue to grow, but I doubt it will have the same market share in 2 years, let's say.
In the incumbents today, you have Tether and USDC as the primary. Look, I think I'm pro Tether. The U.S. government is not pro Tether. And that means I think there may be shifts in market share. I think for Ripple. Do I think there's going to be another black swan? Of course, 100%. I just don't know exactly what it is. The only one that's going to be an interesting one to watch, and I don't even know how he calls a black swan, because I feel like black swan by definition can't really be, it's like predicted. Oh, didn't see that happening.
Yeah.
The U.S. government is going after Tether. That is clear to me. I view Tether as a very important part of the ecosystem, and I don't know how to predict the impact that will have.
That was a pretty cool little compilation of a couple different times Tether has been talked about by Brad Garlinghouse. I don't know. I really don't. You know, I think I agree with everything Brad Garlinghouse says, but then obviously Howard Lutnick, the new Treasury Secretary, is very close to Tether. He's part of Trump's Treasury and transition team. So, you know, I see both sides of it, right? I think Tether is going to have to make some changes if they want to be incorporated. I think Brad Garlinghouse is right. There's certain divisions of the government that don't like Tether, but there's other that might be pro-Tether. It's just going to be interesting how Tether fits into everything. I think Tether kind of can control their own destiny. Do they want to be part of the regulated system, or do they want to stay in the unregulated system? And that's going to be the interesting question, because if they want to stay in the unregulated system, there's probably a reason for that. I'm not sure if I know that exact reason, but you know, I'm surprised anyone would really kind of make that choice considering the amount of money in the regulated system.
So I think we're early in that journey. I think there's going to be, you know, a bunch of significant winners. I mean, some people would say, well, you already have a bunch of big winners. Bitcoin's at 1.8 trillion. ETH is, you know, 400 to 500 billion. But, you know, we really are only going to have the winners once you really have the scaled utility, the scaled use cases that are solving real problems for customers. So.
Yep. Great little clip right there. All of these are gold. Whenever you can better understand what Brad is seeing in the market, I mean, there's no one who knows more than Brad Garlinghouse and the Ripple team. I mean, they know this institutional adoption. They see it. One of my favorite quotes is Brad Garlinghouse says that Ripple has signed more deals in the United States in the last 6 weeks than the last 6 months combined.
I frankly, I always worried that the Achilles heel of Bitcoin might be this kind of anti-bank, anti-government sentiment. And, you know, it just, to me, it limited the market opportunity if you're going to take that approach, because I feel like governments aren't going to go away, banks aren't going to go away, in my opinion. So years later, a recruiter actually called me and introduced me to Ripple. And what resonated with me right out of the gates was this idea of how do we work with the legacy infrastructure, what we now would call TradFi. And, you know, that included government and certainly banks. And it resonated with me that Ripple was trying to work with the system rather than create a fully new system. There's obviously, you know, arguments on both sides of that. I can see those arguments, but from the very earliest days, Ripple's kind of taken an approach of we're going to be a bridge between decentralized finance and traditional finance, and bring products to market to help bridge those, both frankly culturally, technologically, et cetera. So that's how my journey began. As you pointed out, I joined in 2015 through, you know, a little luck, a little skill. We find ourselves in a really compelling place with a bunch of customers and you know, scaling products. So we're pretty pleased about that.
Let's see what else we got. Shout out to XRP Drops too for all these great clips. There's one in particular I really wanted to play in here. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
But I think you and I would probably agree, using the crypto networks, blockchains, is not simple today. I mean, even for someone who's deep into it, sometimes I
potential blockchain business models that want to do something similar. You guys have.
I literally just clicked on the exact clip I wanted.
And to me, it still feels like we're very early days. So talk about the building trust and the education in the market and where you think we are in that process.
Yeah, I'll start at the end of that one. I think that
this is very important because, look, I don't think a lot of people really understand how early we are. And I think I've been one of the people who have really tried to hammer home that we're really a lot earlier than many people understand. But I think what this is going to show you is like, we're earlier than I thought we were. Like, I thought we were like kind of in the first to second inning. Brad Garlinghouse essentially thinks we're in the pregame warm-up. I want to play this because look, I just think it's really important to understand, like, where do we stand in this transformation? Like, how far are we? And we're so much earlier than I would have ever expected. I really thought we were kind of in the 2000 era of the internet. Brad Garlinghouse thinks we're even earlier.
Most interesting part is trying to figure out where are we in this journey. And I'll use the internet of information as a comparison, a lot of people think the internet started in the 90s. Netscape was born in 95. But really, the internet really was born in the early 70s out of, the DARPA and then DARPANET, whatever. And, then you connect universities, and then you end up getting a particular school in Illinois connected, and they launched the Mosaic browser. And each step was about simplicity and simplifying the use of these networks. I think you and I would probably agree, using the crypto networks, blockchains, is not simple today. Even for someone who's deep into it, sometimes I find it frustrating. And I think we are still in the kind of almost DARPANET stage of blockchain, where we haven't yet had the birth of Mosaic or the birth of Netscape that unlocks more and more simplicity. And it's frankly one of the reasons why Ripple has focused at the enterprise level, because we can frankly obfuscate a lot of that complexity of using blockchains such that our customers don't even have to see or touch that, but still have the benefit of improved speed, improved cost, improved error rates. So I think we're early in that journey. I think there's going to be a bunch of significant winners. Some people would say, well, you already have a bunch of big winners. Bitcoin's at 1.8 trillion. ETH is 400 to 500 billion. But we really are only going to have the winners once you really have the scaled utility, the scaled use cases that are solving real problems for customers. I think we probably all agree that right now there's a lot of speculation in the market, and some utility, some other pieces. But Ripple has always tried to focus on, okay, we're solving problems for customers. We're not trying to lean into meme coins, for example. You can use the XRP ledger as open source technology to do meme coins if you would choose to do so. And frankly, there are examples of that happening on the XRP ledger because it's open source technology. Ripple, and how do we
love the little meme coin shout out right there? That's awesome. XRP holder says too early is really a bad thing, though, surely. No, I don't think so. Look, the earlier the better. I never look at early as a bad thing. Man, look at any popular internet stock and tell me that you would rather be later than earlier. I don't know. I can't find a single one where I'd rather be later than earlier. So I'd almost always rather be early. Does it mean there's going to be a lot of volatility? Does it mean that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs? Yes. But, it's all about picking winners. If you pick a winner, being early is typically a great thing. It's really hard to find examples where picking an early winner doesn't turn out well.
We build trust is how do we make sure that, our customers understand, where the kind of products we're bringing to market and that they work well and they're adding value. And, I feel very good. It's been a long journey. In some ways, ironically, maybe the SEC lawsuit against Ripple added trust to some degree, because we prevailed, because we fought the fight and, prevailed on the kind of the key points that mattered. I think a lot of people, it built trust as well. And so I do feel good about, how Ripple has emerged from some of this. But I also would say, to my earlier point, I think we're still in the early days. And the journey ahead, I'm very excited about.
I want to come back on the stable coin. So you talked for a moment about kind of the value of having your own stable coin, but can you maybe just expand a little bit on that and the structure of what the stable coin at Ripple is going to look like relative to maybe some others in the market? And then I think questions around just how that works with XRP, how it's complementary and actually drives value to the XRP ledger. I think that would be great to understand that better.
Sure. So as I'm sure many people who follow you are well aware, and I know you know this pretty well. The stablecoin market today globally is about $200 billion. About 70% of that is Tether or USDT. Probably another 20% of that is USDC, which is Circle's kind of solution in the marketplace. And then there's a longer tail after that of smaller players. Tether is, I'm pro Tether and an advocate. The U.S. government, I think, is less so. That may change also, but Tether has intentionally set up outside the United States, outside of kind of the long arm of the U.S. Regulator, and I think that gives some major institutions pause about interest in working with them. And our view has been there's an opportunity for a trusted brand like Ripple, who has a lot of experience with institutions, a lot of experience with payment flows, to bring a product to market that is truly the most trusted. That we will be the first to come out under with a New York Trust license. We will be doing monthly attestations, and I think we do have our own balance sheet that if problems were to exist, we were in a position to actually help solve those. So now, how will it coexist with XRP? Well, first of all, any liquidity on the XRP ledger is a good thing. It's good for the whole XRP ecosystem, and the more liquidity on there, including stable coins, it reduces friction and the ability to do things, particularly in the DeFi world. There's some native technologies embedded in the XRP ledger, a decentralized exchange, a DEX, a AMM, automated market maker, and embedding a stablecoin, a robust stablecoin, a trusted stablecoin like Ripple USD, we think will actually help that. I don't think it competes with XRP as a different solution, because really we think about that as the bridge currency, right? So RLUSD, Ripple USD is $1. The bridge currency is going in and out of other currencies, and having the most liquid, most efficient bridge currency between various currencies around the world, we think is a needed solution in scaling global commerce.
Yeah. And in terms of the customers,
Interesting. I haven't heard Brad Garlinghouse talk about the Mr. I, good to see you. I haven't heard Brad Garlinghouse talk about the bridge currency in a long time. So it's very cool to hear that bridge currency idea being brought back up, and that continued idea that XRP is the bridge currency, and Ripple still sees that as absolutely vital to how this new financial system is being built out. I always assumed, right, like they was always still part of Ripple's end vision, but it's cool to hear Brad Garlinghouse kind of reconfirm that.
You touched on it a little bit, but historically, B2B and banks, payment providers, merchants, institutions, talk about how these different customer groups have used Ripple over time, how that's evolved, and then I'm assuming stablecoin opens you up probably even more B2C as well, with more applications. So maybe just if we can kind of think about that evolution, and then also where we go from here with customers.
I mean, our focus from a customer point of view has always been B2B. I think it'll remain B2B. While a stablecoin can be used by consumers, and the very nature is once it exists on various exchanges, anybody can access it and use it and however they'd like. Our focus will be in serving institutional clients, serving financial institutions. Over time, we may serve, corporates in some regard, but our focus remains very much on B2B, kind of on the infrastructure layer, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of between payment solutions or custody solutions, are there different customers using the firm for a single point solution, or is it a holistic relationship, or where do you see either opportunity for it to go, or where has it kind of naturally already been going?
I mean, honestly, Deb, this is one of the things that gets me kind of most excited about the road ahead. When we first started with the payments piece of cross-border payments piece years ago, we were trying to mostly focus on tier one banks. What we found, because that's where really the cross-border payments activity at really big scales existed. What we found for a whole bunch of reasons is, the classic innovator's dilemma, a reluctance to move quickly. Then, of course, you have U.S. regulatory stuff and the SEC lawsuit that only impacted that more. What we found, though, is, and we still have a number of customers in the tier one banks around payments, but we found a lot of demand in payment providers, tier two banks, tier three banks, particularly outside the United States. The SEC sued us in December of 2020, and that evolved to where we are today, where 95% of our customers are non-US financial institutions.
Hey guys, sorry, I've got to jump. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Great to watch some of that interview together.